Gets much worse. Around that same time, Terrence started yapping about his new form of math, which he dubbed, I shit you not, Terryology, and which included the startling new revelation that 1 times 1 is 2. Which prestigious mathematics journal did he select to announce this groundbreaking development? The View. Let's take a look.
And when I was at Oxford, now this is the point where 4 bubbles meet equally and oppositely.
Can I touch it?
Yes, and it's where 12 planes meet. This is an undiscovered geometry that I'm now making known to the world here on this show.
Isn't that fantastic?
Well, when I was at Oxford, they were so upset because how can a man that didn't graduate from one of their prestigious schools come and tell them that the square root of 2 was a rational number? And I said, I didn't come to tell you guys this. I just came to prove to you that it's a rational number. And they didn't like it.
You heard right. Terrence presented his bullshit at Oxford, and the smart people laughed at him. But why would they laugh at poor old Terry? Do you think the ladies of The View will be a more receptive audience?
Well, you have to remember, our entire world economy is based on 1 times 1 equaling 1.
Yeah, our entire economy is based on 1 times 1 equaling 1. Well, economics does involve numbers, so it should obey the basic logic surrounding numbers that even children can understand. So what's the problem?
So if you can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction, which science proves, then 1 times 1 must equal more than 1. And to have the physical proof of it, that kind of shakes things up a bit.
Well, you're a shaker-upper.
Wow, if you can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction. Okay, numbers are not actions. They're numbers. So that doesn't mean anything. An action times an action also doesn't mean anything because actions are not numbers. Also, no, 2 actions do not necessarily cause a reaction, no matter what he could possibly mean by reaction. If 2 forces are acting on an object that are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, the object won't move. 2 actions, no reaction. Sorry, Terry, but more importantly than demonstrating how everything he just said is bananas idiotic, let's review what multiplication is. Multiplication is an elementary arithmetic operation which is essentially repeated addition. 1 times 4 literally means the number 1 4 times, and then you add them up. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. 1 times 3, write 1 3 times, add them up, you get 3. 1 times 2, 1 twice, 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 times 1 means you write 1 1 time. So it's 1. There's nothing to add. His revolutionary discovery is just him being dumber than a toddler. And toddlers do like to shake things, so this lady isn't wrong.
Well, you're a shaker-upper.
Let's be clear. There are only 2 possibilities. 1. Terrence Howard is doing a Joaquin Phoenix-style extended piece of performance art and is therefore profoundly brilliant. Or 2, he's a delusional narcissist incapable of living his life without pretending that he's the smartest person in human history. Or let's be honest, a god. I'm putting my money on the latter because I've seen this all before. Pick your favorite flat earther. This is their defense mechanism too. The smallest of minds can't face a world that doesn't recognize their self-proclaimed brilliance. So unleash a word salad, convince yourself it's science, and hope that nobody challenges you on it.
Everything inherently is dielectric because it has matter, and then it has a relationship within the medium, the universal background, the absolute frame of reference, the field of energy that is the ether. It receives energy from that.
These types of people enact the most impressive mental gymnastics imaginable to maintain their own ego, and the more I encounter it, the less I find it cute or entertaining. It's a disease that infects impressionable people and measurably worsens society. It's not something to simply laugh at, although we are going to laugh quite a bit more before I return to this thread in my conclusion. So as promised, let's dive into his very recent appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's 3 hours long, so we aren't going to hit every moment. Rest assured, he was completely insane from top to bottom. But let's just go through some highlights.
My first memory was almost like when you're dreaming and you're falling, and you hit the bottom and you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first memory, but I didn't wake up here.
What does he say the square root of 2 is? 1? Or what is it?
I was inside my mother's womb.
XQCL.
Maybe 6 months inside the...
It must be 1, because he said 1 times 1 equals 2, right? So he must
He
think
comes
it's
out
1.
hot in the first 30 seconds, claiming that he remembers being in his mother's womb. I'll remove the suspense for you. No, he didn't. That's physically impossible. Got any proof, Terry?
I remember all of that.
You remember coming out?
Remember being compressed. You remember being born. I remember being circled.
I don't think it's physically impossible. I just think there is no way to ever prove it because, you know, you can't do... How is it physically impossible? Do you not remember, if you are just born, do you not remember 1 minute ago? Or what? No? You don't remember 1 minute ago, even though you have a brain? I'm pretty sure you can remember 1 minute ago. You literally do not store memory at that point? You say that as if you know that for a fact.
Size, I remember the whole 9, and the proof of it was when my wife Mira, that you just met, when she was 6 months pregnant.
I don't think you can prove it because test subjects would be too incapable of feeding you information for that experiment, right? Because they are literally infants.
With my son Kieran, I wanted to prove to her what I was
Who tests shit on infants? No one does that because they're infants. No one ever experiments on infants.
Talking about. So I put a light on her stomach every day at 6 o'clock at night.
Because they need all the shit when they're just born.
Back and forth, and I put a song on
from their mom
for a week straight.
You know what I mean?
First thing he wanted to do is see light. He loved lights from that early stage, and I can ask him the square root of 2, the square root of 5, the square root of that, the square root of pi, and he will run it off.
So his proof of him remembering being born is a random anecdote about his wife's pregnancy, his kid liking light, and a lie about his son being able to do math that Terry himself can't do. But there's more.
And then when I was about 5 years old, I had another dream, and it was this mansion, and he would hand me these shapes, and each shape was different and amazing, and I had access to all the knowledge. The proof of it is the 97 patents that I have now. The proof of it is the industries that I've innovated.
Yes, the proof that he has access to all the universe's knowledge is that he has some patents, something that anybody can get for anything and proves absolutely nothing except that he likes to waste money. He's never innovated any industry, that's why he doesn't actually do anything except ramble like a lunatic on podcasts.
You know, I had the grand unified field equation. I had already put that together, and at 7, 8, I was working with these things, and then I went through all of the hell that I had to go through.
Yes, he had a grand unified field equation at 7 years old, but he wrote it down once and the dog ate it, and then he forgot what it was. That's why he didn't get the Nobel Prize for physics. Also, his girlfriend goes to another school. That's why you don't know her.
But my intention was to rebuild the periodic table, you know, build a new periodic table, because the stuff I had learned in college, you know, I went to school for chemical engineering the first year over at Pratt. And they, at the time, I think it was like 108 elements. And I told the teacher, the professor, about the relationship between hydrogen on the spectrometer and carbon and silicon and cobalt. And I was like, it's the same exact color, same tone, just doubled in each octave. And he was like, no, each element is the same element and it will always be that element. And I was like, you don't see the relationship. So I left school.
Did you leave school or did you flunk out because you kept writing cobalt is an octave of carbon on your exams instead of answering the questions?
And I was going to spend 40 years rebuilding the periodic table, and I found out that Walter Russell had already did that. And he did it based upon the natural curvature of everything.
Walter Russell, who was not a chemist, made this in the 1920s, and it doesn't mean anything. The chemical elements display periodicity. You can illustrate that periodicity in rows, or you can make spirals and other shapes. It's arbitrary, and listing elements this way doesn't offer any novel insight into chemistry or any predictive power whatsoever. Terry just likes the shape as much as he likes pretending to understand chemistry better than chemists, or 10th graders for that matter.
And when you say rebuild the periodic table, what do you mean specifically?
Well, the way the periodic table is laid out, you'll see hydrogen sitting all the way over there by itself, but they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
Same tone, same key of E.
Same what?
key of E.
Same what?
What do you mean by tone?
Same tone, same key of E.
Key of V? What is that? K-O-V? K-O-V?
Same key of E. 40.5 hertz.
Key of E? What is E? I'm thinking about the mathematical number E. What is E? What is he referring to? Key of E.
Hertz. The next one would be like 81 hertz. You go to silicon.
Musical note.
It will double up and would be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt and it'll be 324 hertz. It's, you know, in that base, if you were to take the angles of incidence or the tones that they create, you know, their color. Like you can turn color back into sound.
Joe wants to know what the hell he's talking about, and Terry is off to the races rambling about tones. Elements are not tones. They're not notes. They're not keys. They're not anything related to music whatsoever. They're atoms with a particular number of protons in the nucleus. He's throwing out random terminology and random numbers. Angle of incidence has to do with light. Sounds are not colors, and there's nothing more to say about this unparalleled gibberish.
You'll see there's a relationship between hydrogen, carbon, silicon, cobalt, rhodium.
Jesus Christ.
Get a load of this one.
Hi guys, we are Emily.